My name is Emily. I'm 24 years old, and this story begins with the one moment I had been dreaming about for years: college graduation. The smell of fresh-cut grass and excitement was in the air. Students rushing around in black gowns, families gathering with bouquets, balloons, and teary smiles. I had imagined this day 1,000 times, but nothing prepared me for how it would actually feel. I was standing in front of the mirror that morning, adjusting the cap on my head. My gown hung perfectly. The honors sash felt like a reward after 4 years of constant struggle, late nights, part-time jobs, skipping meals just to afford textbooks. I smiled at myself, proud. My phone buzzed. It was my sister, Claire. Leaving the house now. Mom and Dad are so excited. Can't wait to see you on stage, Em. I stared at the message, frozen. Excited? My chest tightened. Because the truth was, I didn't even know if they'd come for me. You see, my sister and I both studied at the same university. We both worked hard. But only one of us got support. Only one of us got her tuition paid in full. Only one of us had her books, housing, and even weekend trips funded. And it wasn't me. When I turned 18 and told my parents I got into college, they smiled politely. But there was no joy, no pride, just a calm, quiet, well, you'll have to figure it out. Claire, on the other hand, they threw a dinner party for her acceptance. Dad gave a toast. Mom cried happy tears. I never forgot that. But I didn't complain. I found scholarships. I worked 2 jobs. I took night classes and online credits just to save on transport. And somehow, by the grace of sheer willpower, I made it. Same day, same gown, same ceremony, but not the same parents. I didn't expect flowers. I didn't expect applause. All I wanted was for them to look at me like they looked at her. Just once. That morning, I walked out of my apartment alone. I carried my own cap and gown. There was no camera flash. No car waiting. But I promised myself, today, I will graduate with pride, even if no one claps. The university lawn was filled with folding chairs, banners waving in the breeze, and proud families holding their phones high to record the moment. The energy was electric: cheers, music, the sound of names being called across the loudspeaker. I found my seat in the S section. Emily Sanders. I glanced at the rows behind me and saw Claire already sitting, perfectly posed, her gown wrinkle-free, makeup flawless, laughing with our parents. Yes, they came for her. Dad was wearing his usual navy blazer and aviators, smiling confidently. Mom had that overly polished look, like she was trying too hard not to age. They looked at Claire like she was the center of the world. They didn't even see me. I sat down quietly, smoothing my gown. My stomach turned. Maybe they didn't recognize me from a distance, I told myself. Maybe they were just focused on Claire for now. Emily Sanders? A voice said next to me. It was Marissa, my best friend. Her parents were sitting in the second row with a sign that read, "We heartsuit you, Mars." You okay? She asked gently. Yeah, I lied, nodding. Just nervous. She didn't press. She knew the story. One by one, names were being read. The dean was giving the typical speech: perseverance, sacrifice, future leadership. I wasn't listening. My eyes kept darting toward my family. Still no glance in my direction. No wave. No nod. And then it hit me. They hadn't even brought flowers for me. Not a single rose. Claire, on the other hand, had a giant bouquet at her feet. From them, of course. Yellow lilies, Mom's favorite. My fingers clenched around the paper folder, holding my speech. I had been chosen to give the closing remarks for our department. I had written every word with pride, but now it felt empty, like I was performing for ghosts. And then a shock. Over the loudspeaker. Valedictorian Claire Sanders. Applause erupted. Claire stood up gracefully, fixing her hair. She hugged both of our parents before walking up. Dad gave her a thumbs up. Mom wiped away tears. I looked down at my lap. She didn't even earn that title. Her GPA was lower than mine. I knew it. Everyone knew it. But she was on the recommended list. She had connections.
And
I had a part-time job at the library. My name hadn't been read yet. But at that moment, I didn't care anymore about applause. I cared about truth. And it was boiling up inside me. As Claire finished her speech, the crowd erupted in applause. Her words were polished, carefully rehearsed, filled with phrases like, "Thank you for believing in me," and "I couldn't have done this without my family." I sat in silence, fingers tight around my folder, heart pounding, because I knew what was coming next. And now, closing remarks from our top humanities graduate, Emily Sanders. My breath caught in my throat. I stood up slowly. I could feel my knees tremble. But I walked, past the rows of students, past the eyes that barely noticed me, past my parents who didn't even react. They didn't clap. They didn't move. I reached the podium. The sun was hot on my face, and for a second, I almost read the speech I had written. The safe one. The polite one. But then I looked up and saw my parents smiling at Claire. Still looking at her. Not even pretending to look my way. And I knew they needed to hear the truth. So I took a deep breath and put my folder down. "Good afternoon, everyone." I began, my voice steady. I wrote a speech full of gratitude, but I'm going to speak from the heart instead. The crowd hushed. Even Claire looked up, brows furrowing. I want to talk about value. About recognition. About being invisible in your own family. I heard a murmur ripple through the rows. My sister and I graduated today. Same campus. Same classrooms. Same sleepless nights. But only one of us had her tuition paid for. Only one of us got flowers. And only one of us has her parents sitting in the front row, actually looking at her. A silence fell across the field. To every student out there who paid their way, who worked nights, who skipped meals and still made it, this speech is for you. My throat tightened, but I didn't stop. Some of us didn't get applause at home. Some of us were told, "She deserves it, but you don't." I saw Mom shift uncomfortably. Dad was finally looking at me, but not with pride. With confusion. Maybe shame. But today we walked the same stage. We earned the same degree. And that means we were enough all along. I stepped back. The crowd was silent for a second, and then the clapping began. It wasn't wild or dramatic. But it grew. One by one, people stood. Not my parents. But I didn't care anymore. Because for the first time in years, I had said what needed to be said. And I didn't feel invisible anymore. The ceremony ended with cheers, hugs, and pictures. Not mine. While everyone else gathered with their families, I stood to the side, holding my diploma like a shield. Claire was surrounded. Her classmates, our parents, some old family friends, all taking selfies, laughing, crying. My mom handed her a second bouquet, pink tulips this time. Dad wrapped his arm around her shoulder. I watched it all like a movie I wasn't cast in. Then, Claire turned and called out to me, "Emily, come take a photo with us." I hesitated. The old me would have rushed over, forced a smile, pretended everything was fine. But the new me, the one who had just told an entire crowd how it felt to be invisible, I walked over slowly, calm, straight-backed, and stood beside her. Mom gave me a brief smile, almost embarrassed. Dad looked at me like I was someone he didn't recognize. Claire leaned in and whispered, "What was that speech about?" I met her eyes. "You know what it was about."
She didn't respond. Click.
The camera flashed. The smile I wore in that photo was not real. On the way home, I rode in the back seat with Claire. Mom and Dad sat in the front. The silence was heavy. No one spoke. The air conditioning hummed louder than it should have. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. That was a strong speech. I stared out the window. Mom added, "Maybe next time, warn us if you plan to, go off script." I almost laughed. "You mean tell the truth?" No one replied. Claire looked out the other window, arms folded. The rest of the ride was a slow unraveling of old roles: the golden child, the quiet daughter, the parents who thought their choices would never be noticed. They didn't apologize. They didn't explain. But I saw the discomfort in their faces, and that was something. Maybe the guilt was settling in. When we reached home, they dropped me off first. Not Claire. She was going with them to dinner. Dad stayed in the car. Mom handed me a small envelope. "This is for your graduation," she said. We didn't forget. I opened it inside my apartment. It was a gift card. $50. Claire had told me earlier they'd bought her a trip to Greece. I sat on the couch, stared at the card, and smiled, not out of happiness, out of clarity. So, this is what I meant to them. It wasn't just about the money. It was about value, respect, fairness. But I also knew this was just the beginning. Because when families choose favorites for long enough, the overlooked one eventually stops waiting and starts building something without them. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, holding the $50 gift card like it was a joke someone forgot to laugh at. I kept thinking, they really think this makes up for everything? 4 years of bills, night shifts, walking in the rain to save money on bus fare, and this was what they offered. But it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the message. We never saw you the way we saw her. And we're not sorry. And that realization broke something in me. But it also lit something up. The next morning I woke up early, not out of routine but out of fire. Something in me had shifted. I opened my laptop, pulled up my resume, and started rewriting it from scratch. I applied to 5 jobs that day. Real jobs. Not part-time, not student jobs, full-time, high-paying, corporate positions. I updated my LinkedIn, deleted the photo where Claire was tagged, and removed every line that made me sound small. Then I opened a blank page and wrote a title at the top. No one's favorite, but still winning. Under that, I started writing my story. Not for school, not for parents.
Just for me.
It was raw. My journey, the rejection, the silence, the unspoken comparisons, the pain. I didn't know why I was writing it, but it felt good. Like I was reclaiming something. Later that week, Marissa called. "That speech of yours? Everyone's still talking about it. Even some of the professors shared it on Twitter." I laughed. They did.
Yeah.
You said what most of us were too scared to say. Something inside me stood taller. Maybe I had spent years waiting for someone to validate me. But maybe I didn't need to wait anymore. Maybe I was done being the daughter in the background. I didn't tell my parents about the job interviews I lined up. Didn't tell Claire I started freelance, writing on the side. Didn't share that one of my essays was getting attention online. Because this was mine. For the first time in years, I wasn't doing it to be seen. I was doing it to win quietly on my own terms. And that felt better than any bouquet they never gave me. 2 weeks later, I got an email that changed everything. "We're pleased to offer you the position of Junior Content Strategist at Brightline Media. Starting salary, $72,000. I reread the email at least 5 times. Then I just sat there, stunned. No screaming, no happy dance, just quiet disbelief. Because for so long, I had convinced myself I didn't deserve big things. That being overlooked meant I wasn't worthy. But now, someone finally saw value in me. Not Claire. Not the other daughter.
Me.
The job started fast. Meetings, deadlines, client pitches. But I thrived in it. I had spent 4 years managing chaos. Double shifts, unpaid bills, group projects with freeloaders. Corporate life? I was built for this. And people noticed. In the first month, I got asked to lead a small team. By month 2, they raised my responsibilities. I started getting praise. Real praise, not polite nods. "Emily, you're the reason this project didn't fall apart," my manager told me one day. No one had ever said that to me before. Not at home. Not at holidays. Not when Claire's every tiny achievement was celebrated like a national event. I didn't tell my parents about the job. I didn't post about it. Didn't send a photo of my office view. Because I wanted to see something. Would they ever ask? Would they check in? Not as a performance, but out of genuine care? Weeks passed. They didn't. Claire did, though. She texted. "Hey, Mom said you moved? Are you okay?" I had, into a nicer apartment, downtown, close to the office. Paid for it with my own money. No roommates. No help. But I didn't give her the full answer.
Yeah.
"I'm good. That was it. Because deep down, I realized something painful. They weren't curious about me because they were used to not needing to be. And then something strange happened. Dad called. It was a Tuesday evening. I had just finished a long Zoom call. "Hey, kid," he said. "Just checking in. You good?" I froze.
Yeah.
"I'm working a lot. Things are moving fast." Silence. "Claire said you have some big job now." I bit my lip. Here it was a chance to tell them everything. To finally say, "Look, I made it, even without you." But instead, I just said,
Yeah.
"It's going well." Another pause. "Well, proud of you. Keep going." It sounded rehearsed. Like something he should say, not something he felt. Still, it was the first time I'd ever heard him say the words. It wasn't enough, but it was something. That night I wrote in my journal, "They're noticing."
Slowly.
And I'm not chasing it anymore. I'm letting them come to me. And the power in that? It was addicting. 3 months into my new job, I got an invitation. It was from Claire. A family dinner for her promotion. "It's nothing fancy," she said. "Just Mom, Dad, and a few close friends. You have to come." I hesitated. Not because I was busy, but because I didn't want to sit at that table and play the role I always had, the quiet one, the afterthought. Still, a part of me was curious. I wanted to see if anything had changed, if I had changed. So I said yes. The dinner was at our parents' house. Same living room, same polished silverware, same photo wall, still dominated by Claire's graduation, Claire's dance recital, Claire in her first car. I walked in wearing a tailored blazer and ankle boots I bought myself. Simple, elegant, confident. Claire greeted me at the door, already mid-laugh with some old friend from college. "Emily, you look different," she said, tilting her head. "Just tired." "Work's been nonstop," I replied casually. Mom kissed my cheek. Dad gave me a nod. "No, how's the new job?" "No, we're proud of you."
Just formality.
But that night, something shifted, and they didn't even realize it. Halfway through dinner, one of Claire's friends asked, "So, Emily, what are you up to now?" Before I could answer, Claire cut in. "She's doing something with writing, I think. Freelancing or blogging." I paused. "Actually," I said, setting my fork down, "I'm a content strategist at Brightline Media. I lead a team of 8. We just signed a $1.2 million client." Silence. Every eye turned to me. Even Dad stopped chewing. Claire blinked. "Wait, seriously?" "Seriously." Mom leaned forward. "You didn't mention this." "No one asked," I said softly, smiling. The rest of dinner changed. Claire's spotlight dimmed. Just a little. Her friends kept asking me questions. My story, the struggle, the job, the clients, was suddenly more interesting than her office promotion.
And she felt it.
After dessert, as we washed dishes together, she turned to me. "Why didn't you tell me all this sooner?" I shrugged. I guess I got used to not being asked. Her eyes softened. "I didn't mean to ignore it, Em." "I know." It wasn't a full apology, but it was the closest we'd ever come. That night, as I left their house, I walked past the photo wall again. I didn't feel bitter, because for once, I didn't need a frame to prove my worth. The room had finally looked at me, and they saw something they hadn't before.
Power.
And the best part? I didn't steal it. I earned it. A week after the dinner, I got a call from Mom. Not a text. Not a missed call. A real one. "Emily," she said, her voice hesitant. "Can we meet? Just the two of us." I paused. That never happened. In our family, one-on-one talks weren't normal, especially not with me. "Sure," I replied. "Where?" We met at a small cafe on the east side. The kind of place I used to pass by during college, wondering what it would be like to afford coffee there. Now I walked in wearing a coat that cost more than Mom's handbag. She was already seated, nervously stirring her tea. "You look good," she said. "Thanks." There was a pause. "I've been thinking a lot about your speech," she said slowly. "At graduation. Here it comes," I thought. The guilt. The justifications. The "we did our best." But what came next? I didn't expect. We didn't help you because your father didn't believe you'd finish. I blinked. What? He thought you'd drop out. That it would be a waste to spend so much money when Claire had a plan, a clear direction. You were always more quiet, less certain. I sat still. Inside, my chest burned. So, you just gave up on me before I started? She looked down. I didn't agree, but I didn't fight him either. And there it was. The truth. Not wrapped in love. Not softened with excuses. Just cold reality. They didn't invest in me because they didn't believe in me. I sipped my coffee slowly. Do you regret it? She looked up, eyes wet. Every day. The answer hit hard, but it didn't undo the years of silence. It didn't return the missed birthdays, the quiet evenings after Claire's wins while I ate dinner alone in my dorm. Why are you telling me this now? She took a deep breath. Because you're not that girl anymore. You walk into rooms differently. And I see it now. Her voice cracked. I was wrong. I didn't cry. Not out of coldness, but because the version of me who would have broken down? She didn't live here anymore. I nodded. Thank you for saying that. And I meant it. Because even if it came late, the truth finally had a voice. When I got home, I wrote in my journal again. Sometimes you wait years to hear the words you deserved a lifetime ago. But when they come, they don't fix you. They just free you. By the time autumn came around, everything had shifted. I had moved into a new condo. Downtown skyline view. Open kitchen. My own home office. Not bad for the invisible daughter. Claire, meanwhile, was stuck. After her promotion party, things began to stall. Her job became repetitive. The excitement wore off. The company she worked for merged, and her new manager didn't see her the way the old one did. She called me one evening, her voice low. I might quit. I'm not happy anymore. I was surprised. Claire had always been the one with the perfect trajectory. What would you do instead? I asked. I don't know. You seem to have it all figured out. The words sat heavily between us. Because for years, I was the one who didn't have it figured out. Now she was looking at me like I held the answers. At Thanksgiving, the roles flipped even more. We were both home for dinner. Extended family was there, uncles, cousins, people who'd barely said more than hello to me growing up. But this time, the questions weren't for Claire. Emily, I saw that article you wrote trending. Didn't you just speak at a conference? Your apartment is gorgeous. I saw the photos. I answered politely, humbly. But Claire? She was quiet, picking at her food. And I felt it. The spotlight had shifted. Not because I demanded it, but because I earned it the long way. Later that night, Claire pulled me aside. Do you ever feel like I'm becoming the shadow now? I looked at her. For the first time, I saw her not as the golden child, but just a girl. A woman who had spent her whole life being celebrated, and now didn't know who she was without the praise. Maybe, I said gently. But shadows only exist when someone stands in the light. She blinked. So, you think I made you feel like this? Not just you. But yeah, you never looked back. Not once. She swallowed hard. I'm sorry. And for the first time ever, I believed her. That night, I left feeling something strange. Not anger. Not revenge. But peace. Because I had become the person I used to envy. And she had become the one searching for direction. Winter arrived quietly. The city lights glowed softer. My office window framed snowflakes drifting past as I sat finishing a proposal, a six-figure pitch I would present the next morning. Just a few years ago, I was struggling to afford coffee. Now I was consulting Fortune 500 clients. But on this quiet evening, something pulled me inward. I closed my laptop and opened the small wooden box on my bookshelf, the one where I kept the $50 graduation gift card. Still unused. Not because I forgot. Because I remembered. It reminded me where I started, who I was, and what I survived. That weekend, my parents invited me to lunch. Just me, not Claire. They were different this time.
Softer.
More careful. Less distracted. We sat by the window of a restaurant I once couldn't afford, sipping coffee together like we did it all the time. even though we never had. Dad finally said the words I didn't think he was capable of. You proved us wrong. Then, he added something else. And I'm glad you did. I nodded slowly. Took you long enough.
We all laughed.
It wasn't perfect, but it felt real. That night, Claire sent me a voice message. I applied to a writing course. I think I want to try something new. I smiled. Maybe she was beginning her own chapter. Maybe we weren't rivals anymore. Just two women unlearning the roles we were forced to play. I sat by the window with my journal, the final page blank, but I didn't feel the need to fill it. Because for the first time, I wasn't trying to prove anything.
Not to them.
Not to Claire. Not even to myself. I closed it and whispered. I made it. Final line. Arthur was the daughter they underestimated, and the woman they'll never overlook again.